today I'm here with a new video for Stretch Your Stamps. I am joining Shannan Moton. She invited me to be a part of this series, and I'm going to get started here. We're using digital stamps, so I'm using a stamp set from Carrie Bradford, and I wanted to sample some colors, so I'm using the Be Mine kit from Paper Person Shop, and I just loaded that and am copying some of the colors using the dropper, and then going in and changing the color here for the XO. And once I did that in Photoshop, I brought it into Adobe Illustrator, and I'm just creating my pages here. These are 5 by 8.25, just so I can get this digitally done to see how it's going to look when I print it. So I just did 2 boxes here. I put a line down the center so I could see just where the middle of my paper would be when I print it out. And I have all of these changed to colors to match that Paper Person collection, because I am using some of the physical products for that too. So I'm just moving these around, kind of fitting them in together like a puzzle, and just kind of having the colors vary. And then when I print this out, I will have my own custom background paper. So that's one of the reasons I really love digital stamps, because you can do so much with them. I'm going to arrange this kind of in the middle of the page. You could use any kind of digital stamp for this. You could put this at the bottom of the page, the top of the page. Lots of fun things that you can do here. And I'm going to get that last one in place, and then I will show you how it looks. This is what the actual background is going to look like. I also wanted to add like a kind of distressed texture over it. So I'm opening some kind of grunge designs that I've had downloaded forever. This is just a whole set, and you can kind of see here all of the different little backgrounds. So I'm going to open up one of these. It's gray and I want to change the color, so I just select it and then change the color to white, and then I'm going to copy and paste it over my paper here, or what will be my paper. And I actually do this several times just to get more of a distressed look over the little digital stamp here. And I just keep doing it white, just so I can make it have that distressed look. Now I want to use the stamp as a cut file, so I opened it in Silhouette Studio, and I wanted to trace it, so I did select trace area and then trace. I want to offset this because it's going to have pattern paper and my photo behind it, so you can do your offset and kind of play with how big you want it. These were welded together when I did mine, so I released the compound path and moved those over a little bit so I could go back and retrace that. If you want to, if your center part doesn't trace or offset the first time, you can go back and do that. It didn't really matter for my design because I was going to be using the center anyway. So now I'm going to get started on putting the layout together, and I have my photo behind the O, and I'm trying to figure out where I want to place that to kind of not cut in between anybody's face, and also not to punch a hole in anybody's face. So I'm just going to get that in place here first to kind of see where I want things. And I actually printed the left hand side twice because I want to back the X with that pattern on the left hand side, and then I'm also going to use a 5 by 8.25 piece of that again, so that it kind of matches it, because I wanted to pop this up with pop dots. So I needed to have that X backed to be able to do that. So I just glued it to my background paper with some glossy accents, and now I'm going to trim away that excess paper just to have the X filled in here. And while I'm doing that cutting, I will mention that there are also 2 other ladies that are joining in for this series, Shannan Moton and Amber Dawson. So I will leave links to their videos, also along with Shannan's, and to all of their Instagram accounts also in the description box, so you can check them out to see what they created with digital stamps. So I'm almost finished cutting, and once I get that cut, I'm going to bring that piece of background paper over the second piece that I printed, so you can see what that's going to look like. I couldn't leave it unbacked because I wanted to pop it up with pop dots, so I had to have something to fill in that middle part to be able to pop it up. And I didn't want to back it with a different pattern paper because I really wanted the pattern that I created in the background with the digital stamps to show, so this was a great way to do that. And since I'm going to pop this up, I wanted to go ahead and get the holes punched. So I went ahead and used my 1-hole punch to punch over those holes that I had created earlier with my 6-hole punch. And I'm going to use some pop dots to go ahead and get this started, get it popped up. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut that excess edge of the photo because it will go on the other side of the page. So I'm just getting a couple of pop dots in place just to hold that where I want it. And I'm going to use my paper trimmer here to trim off that extra piece that will go over to the other side. And so most of this part will just be kind of getting everything where I want it, getting the pop dots put on the back, just to make sure it's all secure. I like to try to cover a good bit of the background when I'm using pop dots so that parts of the design don't kind of sink in the middle or around the edges. So I just go through, and since I already had that in place, I just left it where it was, and I just go and put the pop dots behind it. There wasn't really much point in pulling it up, so this worked out well to go ahead and get those behind the places that I needed it. And I'll do the same thing for the X too in just a minute. And I will also pop up that little quarter piece of the O that I cut earlier, so it all pops up in the middle. And I like how that kind of makes it stand out from the background where everything isn't flat on top of one another. So I'll just put these on here really quickly. I kind of use a mix of the pop dots. I kind of use the bigger ones on these bigger pieces like this, and then mix in some smaller ones just to fill in that space. So it will be sturdy and just popped up really well off of the page. And I will say I usually have little pop dot backing circles all over my craft area. So beware if you use those that they do make a mess. And so now you can see I'm lining it up where it matches the pattern on the background paper. And I think it's a really cool look because it looks like the paper is showing through the X when actually it's a piece that I backed onto there. So I thought that was a really fun look, and it still lets my background paper show through. I did want to bring in one of the pattern papers from the Paper Person collection. So I used this little black and white heart piece to back the period that goes with the XO, and that kind of worked perfectly. So I just do the same technique on that I did on the X. I just glued it down, and then I'm going to trim around the edge of that piece. This kind of makes it easier if you can do this than having to trace it with your pencil, because sometimes when the lines are really thin, it can be hard to trace with your pencil. So this just makes it a lot easier to get that done. And I'm going to finish it with some pop dots and then just put it over here on the side, trying not to cover up too much of the background with that. And I wanted to bring in some physical products, so I grabbed these wood veneers from Color Cast Designs. These were a part of the February release, and this heart says "Adore You." So I kind of put it in that little area of the X where I did not have any of the pattern, and it fit perfectly right there. So I just like having that physical product. And I wanted to also bring in one of the journaling cards. I never use the journaling cards the way that you're supposed to, so I usually cut them up or do something different with them. So I did grab my paper trimmer, and I trimmed out the Truly Deeply Madly here, and I thought that would work great for the title of the layout. So I'm just trimming those out as individual words, and I'm going to add those there under the O, my photo, just to kind of create a title. And I also use pop dots on part of this because I did layer the word truly over the O. So I wanted to have that little end pop up just a little bit there. So I did add a pop dot to that just to get it even with the O, and then just use some of my rolling adhesive on the back of that. And once I had that in place, I kind of fidgeted with it for a minute because it was really hard to tell exactly where the straight edge was, but I finally got it in place so that I could go and add the other two words also. And so I just kind of line those up like offset where they're not lined up completely even. I also wanted to bring in some of these little puffy hearts from the Paper Person Shop collection. So I kind of used some of the matching colors over some of the XOs in the background. I thought that was cute, having the color on color. So I just tried to find some that matched, and then I used one in the center of the period, and I also placed one over by the Adore You wood veneer in just a minute. I was trying to figure out if there were any more that I wanted to add, but I did use that light pink color over by the wood veneer heart. And I couldn't get it to come up, so I had to grab my my little tweezers there to help me get that up, and it came up really easily. I wanted to add some texture, so I used my tiny attacher on those phrases that I cut out, just to give it that little bit of added texture. And then I wanted to bring in some more black, so I grabbed my Tim Holtz word stickers, and I'm going to do 3 of those, just to kind of create like a little visual triangle around the page. So I just spend a minute looking for phrases that I think will work good with the layout theme here. So like love you, and I think I had one that says life is good, and then I feel lucky. So got those all in place, and I had to move that heart again to get my sticker in place here. That was over by the wood veneer, but I just popped it up with the tweezers again so I could get the sticker where I wanted it and then get that heart back in place. Once I had the heart back where I wanted it, I went ahead and grabbed my date stamp to add the date to the bottom of my layout. And that pretty much finishes up my page. Like I said, I will leave links to the other ladies that are participating in the description box below, so please make sure that you check them out. If you're new to my channel, I would love for you to become a new subscriber. And if you enjoyed today's video, please leave a thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time.